I had always loved road trips, especially the quiet ones, where the highway stretched for miles with nothing but trees and empty fields. That's how I ended up driving late one night, heading toward a small town that didn't even exist on most maps. The GPS kept insisting, "Turn left in 300 feet." I did, and suddenly the road ended at a rusted sign. "Welcome to Ash Hollow." The town was dark, no lights, no movement, nothing except a row of houses that looked abandoned. The wind howled through the empty streets, rattling the doors and windows. I laughed nervously at myself. "It's just a sleepy town," I muttered, but the laugh sounded hollow, like it belonged to someone else. I parked in front of a small inn. Its windows were dark, but the door was slightly open. A cold breeze drifted out, brushing against my face. Something about the town felt wrong, like the air itself was warning me to leave. I pushed the door open. Dust swirled in my flashlight's beam. The air smelled of mold and decay. An old clock on the wall ticked, 11:59 p.m. Then silence. A faint whisper drifted from upstairs. "Don't stay, don't stay." I froze. My flashlight flickered. I could feel eyes on me, though no one was there. I climbed the stairs slowly. The hallway stretched endlessly. Shadows darted just out of the light. My heart pounded in my chest. Suddenly a door slammed behind me. The hallway vanished. Outside the window, streets I had seen before were gone, replaced by empty fields. I realized with a chill that froze my blood that this town didn't want to exist for anyone awake past midnight. I swallowed hard and took a step forward, trying to convince myself I wasn't losing my mind. The hallway seemed to stretch forever, the shadows twisting with every flicker of my flashlight. Then I heard it again, a soft dragging sound coming from the end of the corridor, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely above a whisper. The dragging stopped. Silence. And then I heard a low, guttural laugh echoing from somewhere above me. It was hollow, inhuman, and it sent a shiver down my spine. I turned a corner and froze. A figure stood at the far end of the hallway. It was tall, almost too tall, with pale skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Its head tilted unnaturally, and it didn't blink. I stumbled back, my flashlight trembling in my hand. When I looked again, it was gone, just like that. I tried the nearest door, hoping for a place to hide or at least to catch my breath. It led to a small room, completely empty except for an old rocking chair. The chair slowly started moving on its own, creaking back and forth. I wanted to run, but my legs felt like they were made of stone. Then the whispers returned, louder this time, all around me, overlapping. "Leave, or stay forever. Leave, or stay forever." I bolted for the stairs, but when I reached the landing, the staircase had vanished. In its place was just a dark void, swallowing the hallway below. I could hear the dragging sound again, closer now, circling me. I backed into the corner, trying to catch my breath. The shadows around me thickened, almost alive, crawling along the walls like black smoke. And then I saw dozens of glowing eyes staring at me from the darkness, moving closer with each heartbeat. I didn't know how long I stood there, frozen with fear. Time didn't seem to exist. The clock on the wall hadn't moved. It was stuck at 11:50. The whispers turned into screams, and I realized that this town was not just hiding from the world, it was feeding on anyone foolish enough to wander inside after midnight. Something cold touched my shoulder, and I screamed. I spun around, heart hammering, but there was nothing there, just the same empty hallway, shadows stretching in impossible directions. My flashlight flickered again, and in that brief darkness, I thought I saw figures standing silently in every doorway, their faces pale, their eyes hollow. I stumbled backward and collided with the wall. That's when I noticed the floor beneath me. It was no longer wooden. It looked like cracked stone, covered in a thin layer of mist that seemed to rise from nowhere. The air smelled metallic, like blood and rust. A voice whispered right in my ear, cold and breathy, "You shouldn't be here." I whirled around, shining my flashlight into the darkness. The beam landed on a door at the very end of the hall that hadn't been there before. It was old, heavy, carved with strange symbols that seemed to writhe when I stared too long. Compelled by fear and curiosity, I reached for the handle. The moment I touched it, the hallway behind me vanished completely. There was nothing but darkness stretching into infinity. My flashlight flickered, then went out, leaving me in total blackness. I forced myself to open the door. The room beyond was small, lit by a single flickering lantern, and in the center, a circle of old broken dolls. Their eyes were wide open, unblinking, and they seemed to stare directly at me. Some of them had cracks in their faces, revealing hollow, empty spaces inside. I stepped closer, trying to convince myself it was just dolls. That's when one of them moved, just a twitch at first, then a full turn of its head. The dolls began to whisper in unison, voices overlapping. "Stay, stay, stay." I stumbled back in horror, but the door slammed shut behind me. I was trapped. The lantern flickered and went out, leaving me in complete darkness. Then I felt it. Tiny, cold hands gripping my ankles. More whispers. "We've been waiting." Panic surged. I kicked and struggled, but the hands were strong, pulling me down toward the circle of dolls. I screamed, thrashing, until a sudden flash of light filled the room. When my eyes adjusted, the dolls were gone. The room was empty, but the air had changed. It was thick, suffocating, and I could hear the faint sound of distant bells, echoing as if the entire town were ringing them for me. I realized then, with absolute certainty, that Ash Hollow wasn't just disappearing after midnight. It was alive, and I was the next thing it wanted to consume. I ran blindly, trying to find another exit, but the hallways kept twisting. Each turn led me back to the same room, with the cracked dolls. No matter which door I opened, the shadows followed, stretching longer, darker, like they had a mind of their own. The whispers grew louder, turning into screams that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The air burned my lungs with each breath. I felt my feet sink into the floor. It wasn't solid anymore. It felt like walking on thick, cold mud that pulled me downward. A figure appeared at the end of the hallway, tall, pale, its head tilted, unnatural. Its eyes were black holes that seemed to swallow the dim light of my flashlight. It raised a hand pointing directly at me. I froze, unable to move, as a voice, hollow and distant, echoed in my mind. "You don't belong here. No one does." Suddenly, the ground beneath me cracked open. I fell screaming into darkness that felt endless. I landed hard, pain shooting through my body. When I opened my eyes, I was in the town square, but it wasn't the same square I had seen before. Buildings were twisted, broken, streets looping in impossible directions. The town was alive, moving around me, reshaping itself with every heartbeat. Figures emerged from the shadows, people, or something that used to be people. Their faces were pale, eyes wide with terror, mouths open in silent scream. They reached for me, dragging themselves toward me. With unnatural speed, I ran, zigzagging through streets that no longer obeyed the laws of reality. The clock tower at the center of the town chimed midnight. The sound was deafening, shaking the air. And then I saw it, the town itself lifting, stretching into the sky like a living creature. Streets twisted like sinew, houses bent like bones, and the shadows consumed everything that moved. I realized the truth in a moment of horrifying clarity. Ash Hollow didn't just disappear after midnight. It devoured anyone awake past it, and now it wanted me. I ran straight for the clock tower, hoping to escape somehow anywhere, but the tower wasn't solid. It was made of darkness, swallowing the stars, twisting the night sky. I felt hands, thousands of hands grabbing at me from the streets, pulling me toward the ground. I screamed until my voice broke. My flashlight flickered one last time, illuminating the town's true face. It wasn't a town at all. It was a living, hungry mouth, stretching and writhing, waiting for me to fall inside. I stumbled, and the darkness swallowed me completely. I fell into the darkness, my body tumbling through an endless void. The shadows from Ash Hollow wrapped around me, cold and suffocating. I couldn't tell up from down, or even if I was moving at all.
All I knew was the whispers, thousands of voices screaming, begging, laughing, and then I landed on solid ground, or something like it. The ground felt wet, soft, almost alive. I tried to stand, but the earth beneath me shifted like it had a heartbeat of its own. A dim light flickered ahead, and I crawled toward it, desperate for anything that looked like safety. The light led me to a small room, familiar. The cracked dolls were there again, sitting in a circle, their eyes following me, but now their faces were not just cracked. They were smiling, wide broken smiles that stretched impossibly across their pale, hollow faces. A figure appeared behind them, the tall one with the black hole eyes. It spoke, its voice echoing in every corner of my mind. "You can't leave. No one ever does. This is your home now." I screamed, but it was too late. Hands, cold, skeletal, and countless, emerged from the walls wrapping around me. They pulled me into the circle of dolls. Pain shot through me, as I felt my body contorting, twisting, reshaping. When I opened my eyes again, I was no longer myself. My skin was pale, my eyes hollow, my mouth frozen in a silent scream. I looked around and realized the dolls were looking at me, and now I was one of them. Outside, the town of Ash Hollow shimmered in the moonlight. When the clock struck 1, the streets shifted back to normal, or at least normal enough for a traveler to drive through without noticing anything unusual. But anyone who dared to stay past midnight never left the same. And if you drive down that lonely highway at night, you might just see the sign "Welcome to Ash Hollow." And if you're curious, if you're foolish, you might hear a whisper, soft as a breeze, "Don't stay."